She was just the maid, poor, quiet, invisible, until the day she stole a billionaire's Ferrari. Not for money, not for fame, but to save the life of the one person who ever treated her like family. What happened next? Left the entire city, and her billionaire boss absolutely speechless. Asterisk, poor black maid steals. Billionaire's Ferrari to save his daughter. His reaction shocks all. Grace had always known her place in the world. She was the maid, invisible, obedient, and replaceable. For 6 long years, she worked in the grand home of Charles Vanderhall, one of the richest and most powerful businessmen in the country. The mansion had more rooms than she could count, marble floors that gleamed like glass, and cars that cost more than her entire neighborhood. She never spoke unless spoken to, never sat unless told to, never looked directly at anyone unless they needed something. Her days were filled with scrubbing, cleaning, and making herself small. No one cared who she was except one person. Lily Vanderhall was Charles's only daughter, 17, gentle, and full of light. Unlike the rest of the family, Lily always greeted Grace with a smile. She remembered her birthday. She asked about her mother. She hugged her every time Grace brought her breakfast. In many ways, Grace felt like Lily's second mother. And in Lily's eyes, Grace wasn't just the maid. She was the one who listened, the one who cared, the one who showed up when no one else did. That bond was unspoken. Quiet, private, but unbreakable. Then one morning, everything changed. It was a regular Monday. Grace had just finished her chores when she heard something from upstairs, a dull thud followed by silence. She rushed up without thinking, heart pounding. There, lying motionless on the floor of her bedroom, was Lily. Her skin was pale, her eyes half closed, her breathing shallow. Grace panicked. She shouted for help. No one answered. The house staff were out. Mr. Vanderhall was on a business trip in Europe. The cook had gone to the market. The guards had stepped out for a shift change. Grace called emergency services. After a brief pause, the operator said there was a citywide emergency, a protest blocking the main roads. Ambulances would be delayed by over 40 minutes. 40 minutes? Lily didn't have 40 minutes. Grace looked down at the girl she loved, like her own, and made a choice. Without thinking twice, she ran downstairs, grabbed the keys from the kitchen drawer, and did the unthinkable. She took the Ferrari. Charles Vanderhall's most prized possession, the one car he never let anyone touch. Red, sleek, and powerful. To him, it was a symbol of status. To Grace, it was the only chance Lily had to live. She gently lifted Lily, carried her down the stairs with shaking arms, and laid her across the passenger seat. Then she drove. She didn't know how to drive a Ferrari. She didn't care. Her only thought was to get to the hospital before it was too late. Her hands were trembling. Her foot shook on the pedal. She ran red lights, dodged traffic.
Maid.
With every breath that Lily would hold on, behind her, sirens wailed. Police cars followed, alerted by cameras tracking the stolen vehicle. The news spread fast. Billionaire's Ferrari stolen in broad daylight. The headlines didn't ask why. They just assumed. But Grace didn't stop. She kept going until she screeched into the emergency entrance of the city's biggest hospital. Nurses rushed out, pulling Lily away on a stretcher. The doctor yelled something about internal bleeding. Another shouted for the trauma unit. Grace was left standing there, heart racing, eyes wide, breath gone. Then she felt the cold grip of metal on her wrists. The police had arrived. No one asked her what happened. No one gave her a chance to explain. She was a black maid in a stolen luxury car. That was enough. They shoved her into the back of the police cruiser as cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions. All she could do was cry and pray Lily would survive. Hours passed, then the doors opened, and in walked Charles Vanderhall. He looked furious. But it wasn't the kind of fury Grace expected. It wasn't about the car. It wasn't about the headlines. It was about Lily. He had just arrived. From the airport, he'd heard everything. And when he asked the hospital staff what happened, they told him one thing. If she hadn't gotten Lily here when she did, your daughter wouldn't be alive. He didn't speak. He watched the hospital security footage, saw Grace carrying Lily down the stairs, saw her holding her like her own child, saw her driving like her life depended on it. Then he looked at the reporters waiting outside, the police officer who still held her file. And for the first time in his life, Charles Vanderhall was speechless. The man who rarely showed emotion walked to the microphone and faced the world. He said, "Everyone wants to talk about a stolen car, but no one wants to talk about a saved life. Grace didn't steal anything. She gave everything. She saved my daughter when no one else could. She did what any parent would have done. I will never forget it." The charges were dropped immediately, but Charles didn't stop there. He gave Grace a full salary for the rest of the year, even though she refused to come back to work. He bought her a new house. He paid for her mother's surgery. And in front of every news camera, he handed her the keys to the Ferrari, the same one she had stolen. Because to him, it was no longer just a car. It was the reason his daughter was alive. Grace didn't keep the car. She sold it, and with the money, she opened a foundation in Lily's name, one that provides emergency medical transport for low income.